It is the penultimate effluvium of the 2023-2024 season. And our guest for this episode is the man who was there for the very first YouTube episode back in September 2022, Alex the Perfume Temple. And he asked me not too long ago, why don't we meet up and do a live stream on green fragrances? And I said, why not? Why don't we just do it on an effluvium episode? Seems like the perfect setting for it. And he obliged, and I let Rachel know, and she was thrilled with the idea as well, because all three of us are true green fiends. I have a problem. We already know I have a problem with collecting, but I have more fragrances that fall into loosely the green category, about 40 or more at my side that I collected for potential discussion. I have more fragrances just in that category than most people do in their entire collection. Maybe even 10 times the amount of what most people have in their collection. I love green. And this is the thing about green in perfume that many of us might overlook. It's not just one kind of green. You have aromatic green and herbal green and grassy green and leafy green and vegetal green. You have mossy green. You have milky green. You have all these different kinds of green. It's really just not one type of category in perfume. It really covers a lot of bases, and we're going to be talking about that. And of course, naturally, we're going to be discussing some of our favorites. And of course, we can have 40 favorites, right? Hasn't stopped other people. Here are my 40 favorite X fragrances in my collection of 1,000. It's amusing, but a lot of us can relate. I'm going to take a look at the chat here and see who has dropped in. Paroli, welcome. Scent of the Day, Davidoff, the 1984 eponymous release, the first fragrance from the House of Davidoff. Davidoff being the tobacco brand, the cigars. Many people are not aware of that. It's not a designer brand for apparel. And we have our good friend Noah Drucker. Greetings and salutations, joining in during my workout. I hope everyone in the gym likes clandestine laboratory silver. Well, they must deal either way. That's an excellent selection. And Mark Sage is a brilliant individual. Manginosis, hi, good evening, JJ. You are looking well, thank you. And what I have here is a green shirt. It's a very earthy, a very green, coniferous kind of pine green, but a green no less. A couple of the fragrances do have pine notes here, but I have a tendency to put those in a different category altogether. But this is the thing about green. So we might think about green fragrances as what is traditionally considered green smelling. Something might look green, but it might not necessarily be green smelling. Or something might be not green at all, but smell very green. And it's all a matter of perception. It's all a matter of how our brain perceives scent. And that's the thing that's important when we have these discussions. Many of us will fall into certain tropes where we feel that it can only be described as such if the status quo says it's to be so. But there's also things like synesthesia. You know, you may smell something that other people might think smells red or yellow or blue, and your brain perceives it as green. So that's something else to keep in mind as well as we have this discussion. Will Mullen is here. Welcome. Scent of the Day, Gucci Porom 2. I want to let you know, my friend, the samples are going to be filled at the end of this week. I have, I'm going to try to do it tomorrow. We're going to try to get those out to you next week. And we have Cuddy J77DD. Can I call you Cutty for short, or Cuddy J? Hello all, scent of the day, Amouage, Reflection Man, Fernando Soto, a good friend of the channel. Hey, Gigi. Hey, Gigi Allen, if anybody knows that reference. Hi, JJ, still working, but I will be only listening for the next half hour. I'm so glad you have Alex as a guest. Scent of the day, Bois Mystique by Ubigan. And we have Coup de Bang. What's up, everyone? Scent of the day, Raja Fetish. P.S. Cheers, JJ. Cheers, all. And cheers to you, P.S. We have Angstrom. Howdy, JJ and friends. Scent of the day, Fougere Bengal. Lovely. Jaunty John. Hello, everyone. Scent of the day, afternoon of a fawn. So I am happy to bring back Alex. He has been tried and true. He's been loyal from the very beginning. A good friend of mine in the community. He is waiting backstage. Rachel is going to be joining us shortly, but I think that we shall not keep Alex waiting much further. Let's bring him on in to start the talk. And hello.
Hey there.
Hey.
I'm not wearing green, I'm wearing blue, but this shirt has a particular meaning that will be clear shortly as the conversation unfolds. And let me tell that I'm very, very happy to be on the panel with you and with Rachel yet again. I missed this environment a bit.
It's wonderful to have you back, and it's a good environment. It's a comfortable environment. It's an environment that makes sense in a community that often doesn't make sense, at least when we're talking about the YouTube or social media, TikTok community. Sometimes it's a little hard to make sense of it all. So I feel comfortable with this too, and I'm so happy to have you back. You were there at the beginning, and it means a lot to me. P.S. Just mentioned here, Ben de Firenze and stocked on Santa Maria Novella and Villoresi, two of my favorite houses. And there is at least one from Villoresi that I'm going to be discussing in a little bit.
I'm very keen on Villoresi, but shame on me, I never tried any Santa Maria Novella, though a sample of Melograno is coming my way. Excellent. Though I think probably my favorites would be Cuba and Peau de Pine. Knowing my taste, they will probably be the one I will be looking for if next year when I'm back to Milan, I will visit their flagship store.
It's definitely worth it. I have 12 of them that I appreciate it. I would go even further, but you got to draw the line somewhere. I always say, I can't have them all. I don't want to leave them languishing. The more that I collect, the more I think about what's going to sit and languish. And I've already decided that what I have is a very, very carefully curated museum. And there are new exhibits and old exhibits, and the old exhibits get sent to somebody else who will wear or exhibit themselves. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it now. But I'm so excited to talk about all of this. And I see who dropped by here. We're going to bring her in. We have Rachel.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Rachel.
A sight for sore eyes. So wonderful to see you.
It's so great to see you both. Hi.
This is great. P.S. says, Cuba is sadly discontinued. Are we referring to the Aqua de Cuba from Santa Maria Novella? I believe that has been discontinued, which is a shame. And Fernando, Alex, great to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Fernando. Happy to be here.
Crowley says, hi, Rachel. And Philippe, our resident French tutor for me, he is here. We're sent to the day Chanel. I see.
Allurum Sport, I think.
Yeah. So, and I just want to speak to the fact that I think that for these live streams, it's so important to interact with the audience as much as we can and acknowledge what they're contributing to the discussion. So if you ever feel like you're being left out, or if I've missed a comment, don't hesitate to just kind of give a a heads up or just raise your hand, figuratively or otherwise. You could use an emoji like, hey, wait for me. And then what I try to do is if I want to go back to a comment, if we're in the midst of a thought or making a point, I'll star it and I'll get back to it. But I'm so glad that everyone is here. We have 16 people who are tuned in at the moment. Manginosis, Rachel and Alex, great to see you both.
Thank you. And I already seen in the chat a couple of things that will pop up later in the show.
Indeed. So I'm going to do a little presentation here. We're going to get started, and we're going to look at a few photographs. This is going to be sort of like the little presentation. So I'm going to bring up a video file here that has some photographs, and we're going to talk about these things. Let's bring it up, and it's going to zoom up, open here. So, all right, this is going to be it. So you guys might know what this is, but who in the chat can tell me what plant this is? Let's see. Who is the first person who can tell us correctly what is this plant? And it is relevant to the discussion, really relevant to our discussion. So let's see who can answer. 14 people tuned in. Good guess, Fernando Immortel, but no dice. Oh, too bad. You lost. No, if we can get back to it. How about who can answer what this plant is? Who can answer what the second plant is? We have Will Malame, and he answered the first one correctly. Will, it is galbanum. Congratulations. Now, who can tell us what this plant is here? By its leaves.
Oh, I'm not sure even about. I can guess, but I'm not sure about this one.
Fernando got it right. It is fig. And then this plant here, who can tell us what this one is? You don't have to give the exact Latin name because there can be other plants in this family that have very similar leaves, but just the general name. What is this plant?
That's difficult. I can tell something that grows in my garden, but it can also be something else.
And Sean H. got it right. Fernando got it right afterwards.
Mint. I would have said mint, but looks like something else as well.
Yes, it's peppermint specifically. But there are a lot of plants. There are a lot of plants that are in the mint family that aren't mint, and many of them actually have essential oils like basil, oregano, tarragon. They're all in a mint family, but they don't all smell like mint.
No, but the leaves looked a bit. I was confused. Could have said also patchouli.
Yeah.
Patchouli is in the mint family, as a matter of fact. That's the fun part of all of this, is the botany of it is really cool as well. The more I learn about the botany, the more I want to get into that. And that's what's fascinating, is patchouli is actually in the mint family, which is why the leaves can look somewhat similar. So that was our little fun game. Why don't we get things started here? I have over 40 fragrances by my side here. Obviously, I'm not planning on talking about them all, but they're just here at my reach for reference. Why don't we kick things off with our guest, Alex. Alex, what was the one that you wanted to talk about first?
Well, I have, I think, a good selection of cheapies, a couple of designers, and some niche in the perfumery. I will start with the cheapie. And the cheapie is, the bottle is green, also is Jaguar for men.
Okay, what can you tell us about it?
This is a great fragrance in various ways. The first is that it costs, I think, $15 or so, and is a great, and still available, and is a great fragrance for those of us who are nostalgic of the old Lacoste or Van Cleef & Arpels Tsar. It reminds me a bit of both, more maybe Lacoste, because it lacks that coniferous piney kick that was so important in Tsar. But since those two are sadly discontinued and reaching extreme prices, because I can't describe those prices differently than extreme, this is a very good alternative. And by the way, I would like to remember people, digressing a bit, that both Lacoste and Zara back in the 80s, early 90s were on the inexpensive side of things. I mean, things like Kouros and Eus cost 3 or 4 times. And they are the bottles you can find on eBay or on vintage markets like you have Mercari, we have Etsy or something else. They have not been reformulated or up to date. They are still those fragrances with 40 years on their shoulders. So I can't see how from $30 or $40 that they costed back in the day, now they can cost 200 or 300. It's totally absurd, considering that we all know the vintage market. It's a risk. It's a risk that the top notes can be gone. It's a gamble on how the bottle has been preserved, and so you have a good alternative in Jaguar, of course. For $15, you can't expect a real Oak Moss, but you get a pretty good idea of what was an Oak Moss fragrance in the 80s.
Well, thank you for that contribution. And I think it's always good for us to recommend something that may be affordable, accessible, still in production, a good alternative to something that may no longer be in production and the prices have been hiked up due to demand and hype. So that's a great suggestion. Let's move on to Rachel. I'm excited to hear what her first choice is. Hey.
Hi, friends. Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm so excited to see Alex. He is just such a wonderful person and just such a knowledgeable expert, especially coming from Italy, where there's so many beautiful Italian fragrances to learn about. And he's so intelligent and he knows so much. And so I would recommend, especially you ladies out there, to definitely check out Alex and his channel, and well, gentlemen too, and everyone. To just sometimes I will, because he obviously speaks beautiful English, but also does streams in Italian. Sometimes I'll just log on to listen to him speak Italian, even though I barely understand anything that he and his guests are talking about. But he's just a really great person. I mean, I'm very happily married, but you all can see that he's very, very handsome also. But so I'm just really happy to be here tonight with Mr. Alex. And of course, JJ, as always, who's the best, amazing. And I have some things to say to JJ later, but we'll get to that. Since we started out with galbanum, I thought, well, I have to bring out the green queen on the ladies' side, which is Cristal by Chanel, by the great Henri Robert, that came out in 1974. And this fragrance to me signifies galbanum at its most beautiful, most crystalline, most elegant, most, kind of bad bitch, like energy out there. It's has a beautiful citrus opening. The galbanum kind of really just connects everything in the fragrance, and it's very clear. It's very dominant. There's like a hyacinth and jasmine heart, I believe, and then a beautiful, especially in the older. This is my vintage eau de toilette bottle. It's my favorite iteration that does exist in an eau de parfum and some other flankers. But I adore this one. And then in the base is like and especially in the vintage, you'll get beautiful oak moss, and then also some vetiver, I think, is in there. But it's just clean, it's classic, it is green at its most refined and finest, in my personal opinion. Men can wear this also, like my husband will wear this and he just smells amazing. I love to wear it. It's great for summer. It's super cooling. It's also very like aloof scent. So if you want to, walk in the room and kind of keep people at a distance in an elegant, kind of sharp way and get those vibes, like if you want to kind of play the CEO for a minute in the room, this is a great fragrance to wear, in my opinion, especially for ladies. So you got to start with this one for women. There you go.
I have a newer bottle in the back that I was thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna keep on going, and then I'm gonna spend all night putting everything away. But I have its older brother or sister or sibling here.
19.
We have number 19.
Excellent.
This is number 19. And we'll take it out of its lovely little box. The elegant minimalism of Chanel. And here is the Eau de Toilette, Chanel number 19. I believe this is a bottle from late 80s, early 90s at the latest. And it's sublime. And we do know that this comes from the time where we really started to see these green notes come into vogue in the early 70s. And the thing that's unique about number 19 is, texturally speaking, it starts off, especially in the Eau de Toilette form, it starts off very bright and green floral. So we're talking about, the galbanum is there. Don't worry, even if you don't see galbanum as one of the notes listed, because it could still be there. But you also have the hyacinth, and you have the other greenish florals. But what's beautiful in this is the orris, though. The transition from the top notes to the heart is what really is the showstopper here, is when that dries down and you have it's sort of like you're starting off with this imagery of a tinted landscape, and then it just grows more impressionistic and pastel as the day progresses when you're wearing it. But it's beautiful. Number 19 from Chanel is the epitome of refined green.
Yeah, totally appreciate those two. I have a Crystal and I had a sample of 19 too, because though they are marketed towards women, I think they are not that bubblegum sweet fragrance that are so popular nowadays. They have that green bitterness, that green kick that comes from galbanum, I think. And the citrus opening, that totally wonderful and totally unisex.
It's your turn, Alex. What are we going to hear from you?
Mm-hmm. Okay, next one. Let's solve the short reason. I will talk about the designer fragrance that many times I've heard it considered niche, but this shirt testifies that Etro is a designer.
Let's take a look at that. Let's show us what you got there. What Etro do you have?
Palais Jamais.
Ah, brilliant. I have that as well, but my side. I'll show mine as well. You show yours, and I'll show mine.
Yeah. I could have brought Vetiver. Oh, you have the older one.
I have the older one. Not that you need to have the older one, but I just happen to have the older one.
Yeah.
It is even the color green.
Yeah, it's very green.
We'll have you talk more about it.
It's very green, but mine is a modern one with a square label. And this fragrance, honestly, is very complex and confused me in the beginning, because it has a big citrus opening that on my skin lasts throughout the life of the fragrance. And then instead of having the usual evolution from the brighter to the darker side, this fragrance is ever-changing. I mean, it's like you take a walk, a stroll in a forest, along a path, along a track, and you smell it, you experience the greenery, the smell during the day, and suddenly it is night, darker, or suddenly it is raining. So it's more soily, more, and it's always it's not in a linear progression. It's all together. It's I don't know. Sorry, how to explain it better than this.
I think I know what you're trying to say. It's sort of like it's not linear, but you kind of can pick up everything through all points of the development, but some things sort of dial up and others sort of fade over time. And it's almost like, it's kind of like what I was explaining with like number 19 to a degree, but it's even more pronounced in this, where it's like, it feels like it's a shapeshifter over time, but you still experience everything. It's just the intensity of each component is just in a different place as it progresses. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's actually, you describe it perfectly. Talking about something completely different, because was one of your streams on, I don't remember if it was on leather or on the animalics, when we were talking about Guerobert. And you were saying that it did 2 fragrances from 2 different brands that have something in common, and you compared it to a painter that does a series of paintings. Let's take Monet with his ponds, and taken in different moment of the day, on different weather. This fragrance is that place in the forest, taken in different moments of the day, in different weather, but all together, all in one.
Yeah. Like there's something about it that feels simultaneously damp, but also dry.
Yeah.
Like it's, and how is that possible? How is that possible, you may ask?
Genius.
Well, genius makes it possible. And what is beautiful also about it is that the vetiver plays such a big role, but the brilliance behind the perfumer, and you'll have to forgive me, I don't recall the perfumer's name. I could bring up my spreadsheet because I can't remember all of these off the top of my head. But the perfumer who composed Palais Jamais was able to use vetiver in such a way so that it was to impart an effect without it lording itself, which is what vetiver does. When you have a lot of vetiver, it usually is vetiver is the big star, and you know, it's their world and everyone else is just living in it. But here it actually plays politely. It plays nice, and it allows all these other elements to sort of work very, very beautifully with it. You know, like it opens up and it's all very green, but it isn't a sharp. Nothing about Palais Jamais to me is particularly sharp green, though. It's like when I reviewed it, I said it sort of felt like if it was like a sun shower, or it was sort of like a misty moor, where it's like it's green, but it's sort of sort of like a muted green, and it's very aromatic, and it just feels like a leafiness, but not that stemmy, sharp leafiness. It's just it's a unique green. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. I've actually never smelled the more recent bottle, but now I feel confident that it smells quite lovely since you have it in your possession. Yeah, that's a good one. Good choice. All right.
I just wrote that down, the Palais Jamais, and I love Etro. I have several bottles, both vintage and contemporary, but I've never smelled Palais Jamais. So now I'm going to put it on my list to buy, or at least try, if not buy. So
I hope you can try. I always hope to try before I buy.
Right. Yeah.
Etro is kind of hard to find in stores, though. Yeah.
Yeah. In the US, especially.
And though it is a designer, it is sometimes considered niche, because all of the fragrances have nothing of the designerish side. They are not mass appealing. They are not at all generic. They are very peculiar, always very interesting.
Definitely, and it just goes to show. I mean, I try new fragrances constantly. I'm constantly trying new things, and there's always something else to try, you know, which is so great, and why I learned so much from you guys, from everyone. And especially my next perfume that I want to talk about, really, I kind of want to highlight JJ. This is Silence. Silence, right? I believe it was created in 1978, and the perfumer is Jean-Claude Niel or Niel. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
Niel.
Yeah, thank you.
Philippe can verify. I think it's Niel.
Niel. Thank you. I've never known how to say his last name, but and the notes are amazing. Again, it's kind of a green galbanum forward fragrance. The thing I love about it is a beautiful floral. It's very green. It's very bright. It has narcissus in it, which I love to me, bringing that just touch of narcissus along with the usual kind of hyacinth and jasmine. You know, it adds this beautiful complexity to it. It has the moss and everything in the dry down, but it's such a great fragrance. It's still affordable to buy. It's still easily found. And I discovered this fragrance from Joseph. And when I was kind of starting my perfume journey, one of the primary sources that I learned from, that I got my information, was JJ's Instagram. And, you know, he still does these beautiful kind of like weeks, like themed weeks, like Green Week or Violet Leaf or Orris Week or, you know, Spice Week or whatever. And I still follow them as much as I can. And I still learn from JJ. And he's just so knowledgeable. I mean, about molecules. He spent time making perfumes. He has this deep funds of knowledge that are amazing. And so if you don't already follow JJ on Instagram, please do. No matter how much you know, you can always learn more, and you know, everyone around you can be a source of information, because the fragrance world is so large, you know, and there's always someone else who's tried something that you haven't. And JJ's amazing, just like Alex, right? And I kind of take this just a second, if it's okay, JJ, to apologize to you, because I know I've been gone a little bit lately, and I know everyone here probably who knows me has noticed for the past few months, that I've just kind of been a little absent. I just wanted to apologize and just kind of let you guys know what's been going on. My husband and I, we're all still together as a family, and everything's fine and wonderful. But our son was recently diagnosed with autism. And if you know anyone that has a child with autism, it's extremely difficult, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And it's a big adjustment to a family. And and our son is amazing and perfect in every way and super unique, and he is who he is, and we love him so much. But it's just been a journey, and through that journey, I have let down JJ, and I didn't mean to, but I just kind of wasn't there when I should have been, and I just want to apologize and just say thank you. And JJ is an amazing friend, and he's never once said made me feel bad about it or stopped being supportive in any way. And so I just feel really lucky to have these people in my life. And so I just kind of want to let y'all know what's going on and say thank you to everyone, especially JJ. And and also Silence, which is amazing. And I'd love to hear what you guys think of Silence, because I wear this all the time in the summer. Like, this is one of my go-to standard, like, top 5 summer fragrances. And I'd love to hear what you think about it.
You mean a lot to me, Rachel.
Thank you.
You never once made me upset. I knew that you had things to take care of, and those take priority. So I'm just glad that you're back with us. And yeah, I completely understand. So I'm happy that we're all here. This is my core group of friends here. I'm glad that I have both you and Alex on here. You guys have stuck with me from the very, very beginning. So Silences, I mean, what can I say? You know, it was one of those that opened the door to me to green chypres. And honestly, you know, early on in my exploration of older fragrances that went beyond the more famous ones, it was really just the bottle that struck me. I wanted to know, you know, it was really cheap, and it turned out it was an old version too. It, like, I don't know how old it is, but I saw that it was selling for $20. And I said, why don't I just try that out? It just looks cool. I sometimes do that. And lo and behold, one of those beautiful, enchanting, ultra green fragrances. Green floral, definitely. That's something to keep in mind. So there is something called styrylyl acetate that is used in it. And styrylyl acetate is something that has been used in other fragrances that are gorgeous as well, like Ivoire de Balmain, etc. I have actually Ivoire de Balmain here for reference. It's another one that's
great,
a real beauty. But it's the styrylyl acetate, which is also used to put together gardenia cords, actually. And without the gardenia cord itself, it imparts that green leafiness that's kind of hard to explain, but you know it when you smell it. And that's here. Hyacinth is here. Even a muguet, kind of like a muguet, lily of the valley, because of the hydroxycitronal blends it all together. It's just absolutely beautiful. It reminds me of springtime. Whenever I want to revisit springtime, I smell it. Yeah. Let's turn our attention quickly to the chat here. And Philippe, I think I was like overcompensating when I was trying to pronounce it, but I think that's what I had in mind, like miel for honey.
Miel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's miel.
Just like honey. Yeah.
I was trying to tread between something that I thought it would be and what I really thought it was. But yeah, Philippe is always there to help us out in those situations. Margie has dropped in. Good to see you.
Hey.
Much love to you. And Sean, yes, Jacomo Paris made silences or silences. Jacomo had a lot of excellent fragrances coming out of that house. The little hearts. I don't know, how did those little hearts happen? They just, it was all, and it was like perfect timing. It's almost like AI knows when there's some AI going on, and it just, or you know what it could be actually? I think that in the chat, I'm seeing it. I think if people hit the heart button often enough, I think they might spontaneously show up. So I think that's what it might be. And PS says, keep it up, Rachel. And Darren Allen says, we love you, Rachel. No judgment. No judgment at all. We have all been there. We all need to take time for ourselves and our family. God knows that I do. I mean, I'm going to be doing that for much of the summer, so we totally understand. Eric Lee, JJ, new to your channel, but you got me completely geeked out on Lorenzo Villaresi, absolute masterclass perfume house. Bar none, you're absolutely right. Eric, thank you and welcome. We're glad to have you with us. We have Regis Moncton here. Do you have silences in the EDT or the EDP? What I do have is the Eau de Toilette. I don't think that you can go wrong with the Eau de Toilette. I think at the time when it was first released, there was only the Parfum or the Eau de Toilette, and the Eau de Toilette just sings beautifully. And Margie does confirm that the hearts are being sent by the folks who are in the chat. We do have 29 people tuned in. I want to thank each and every one of the 29 people who are tuned in at the moment. Fernando Soto, I feel you, Rachel, but in the brighter side, autistic kids give you so much love that I concluded we are the disabled, not them, because their soul is so pure.
Yeah, totally.
And happy to help Le Français for Philippe. And supply and demand, Rachel was holding the bottle with her hands in a heart shape. And Emily, lovely to see you. I know that you took a hiatus from Instagram. I'm glad that you could tune in with us. And thanks for letting us know that the hearts are from all of you. And supply and demand, if you make your hands into a heart shape, it comes on the screen. Really? Wait, there's that too? Wow, there's all different kinds of things. No, I think he might be just messing with us. All right, so I think it's my turn. So eloquently put, Rachel, regarding silences, and thank you so much for the tribute for me. I'm humbled by that, but more importantly, that you're with us and you're doing well. And the next one that I want to share here, and it's like I didn't plan any particular order, but a beautiful one that we have from Parfum de Pierre, which to me is sort of a generous sui when it comes to perfumes, because I don't think I've quite smelled anything else like this, but yet it still embodies a verdancy, as it were, a greenness. This is Malame from Parfum de Pierre. This is Marc-Antoine Corticchiato at the helm. And this is the smell that is, he captures all of those plants that may have been forsaken in perfumery. So we're talking about those wildflowers that we might overlook, or we might see them as we're walking in a meadow or in a field. And they too have an aroma that stirs up the air on warm days. And he's captured that here. And it's really fascinating because he's used some unique materials in this, like a rigerin. essential oil. Now, origerin is also known as fleabane. Now, many of you may be familiar with this, this plant in late spring through the summer into autumn. Origerin look like little tiny daisies, and they grow in little bunches. Fleabane, they have like little white petals with a yellow middle, very tiny, and they grow in little groups on their plants. They're in the aster family, just like the daisy, and they actually produce an essential oil. And what was brilliant is Marc-Antoine was one of the first perfumers to really use it to a great effect with this. And he also has like a nettle accord in this. So it does just strike me as very much like, you know, weedy might not sound pretty, but it is pretty in actuality, because just think about that smell, the smell of like when the sun is beating down and all of this vegetation is warmed by it, like thistles and yarrow and golden Alexander and all these different plants like chamomile, all different sorts of plants that are growing in the meadow. Just beautiful stuff. So it is that type of green. And for that, I really do appreciate it. It's a Malame from Parfum d'Empire. And onward we go with Alex. Alex is going to talk about his next one here.
Yes, the last designer, and another designer that is never designer-ish is Costume National, and this is Cyber Garden. Cyber Garden is kind of a futuristic take on green, because it is green, it is a bit aquatic, there's a lot of violet leaves, it has a vinyl note, so it has a kind of a plasticky feel. But to me, the star of the show, it's maybe because on my skin, patchouli always shines so well, and this to me is heavy on patchouli. On the green side of patchouli, it's just a bit camphorous, but it's not that kind of hippie chocolatey patchouli, and it's not extremely medicinal. But this is a kind of green that it's not doesn't mean to be, it's not meant to be realistic. It's meant to be more like an idea of green, an idea of actually the color, and not it's not meant to have a resemblance with some plant, something natural. It's a kind of trying to give the green color a smell. To me, it's beautiful, and though it's very kind of futuristic, very abstract, it's very, very wearable.
That's cool. I love like abstract, kind of artistic, futuristic things. Would you say, Alex, that it's that women could wear it too, or would it?
Yeah. It's completely unisex.
Cool.
It's and this is another brand that does things that in a different way than design. Though they are designers, they approach the fragrance making in a more artistic and creative way.
It kind of reminds me of like sort of like a Comme des Garçons concept.
Yeah, exactly. They are another designer brand like Costume National or even like Etro that doesn't approach the perfume world like other designers that makes generic mass appealing, and rightly so. They have to sell, of course, scents that remind you of another scent that was successful the year before or something like that. They do their own thing, like it or not, but in fact, I sometimes confuse Costume National and Comme des Garçons because they are so similar in the concept of how they approach perfumery.
It's true, because I love Costume National Homme, but it almost kind of echoes that of the original Comme des Garçons Eau de Parfum. because they both have that sort of clove forward spiciness. They don't smell exactly the same, but the concept is similar.
In fact, I always remember I tried a fragrance, but I don't remember if it was Comme des Garçons or Costume National. It was called Marseille, I think. It was...
Marseille. Comme des Garçons is...
Comme des Garçons. It was extremely soapy, extremely realistic Marseille bar of soap.
Cool.
It was incredible.
It smells like it is one of the most perfect representations of like a Castile soap.
Yeah.
Like it is like the best soapy scent I've ever smelled. I have it back there because I didn't think to grab it because that's more like a soapy scent than a green scent.
Yeah. No,
but it's excellent stuff.
Disgusting. Yeah.
But you know what? You helped me to decide what the next one's going to be out of the green ones. I'll do a CDG for the next one. Rachel, what do you have for us?
I have another new one to try. Thank you, Alex. So I'm going to go with something also kind of experimental, and this is one of my favorite houses. It's Stora Skogen is the house, and this is a 2023 release called Hexen Salba. It's an like aromatic kind of spicy green fragrance, definitely unisex. It was released in 2023. The perfumer is Anna Barkney. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Top notes are wormwood and licorice. Middle notes are angelica, rosemary, belladonna, and tuberose. Base notes are patchouli, black hemlock, and oak moss. And so it's a very kind of cool, bitter, dark green. And the inspiration behind this fragrance is wild. And so you might already know it, but it's if you don't know it, it's crazy. So, and by the way, this house is very experimental. They always have really, really unique stories behind their fragrances. They're very intentional. They do not release fragrances very often. It's like one every few years. And they're actually a collective of perfumers. So it's not just the same perfumer. They're also a group of artists. They make paintings and music and all kinds of things. So it's really genuinely like an artistic workshop that also happens to make perfume. So Hexen Salba is the name of an ointment that witches would use, like in the 1200s and the 1300s, created, made of different poisonous plants. And if you ate it, you would die. But the practice of the witches is they would actually rub the ointment on, how do I say this, membranes of their bodies, especially sexual membranes. Oftentimes they would rub it on the tip of the broomstick and then use it to pleasure themselves so that the ointment would be absorbed. And this concoction would make them hallucinate that they were meeting Satan and doing things with Satan. And the flying ointment, exactly, yeah. So they would hallucinate that they were flying even though they really couldn't fly. So people would find them like going on trips in the woods, doing things with these brooms. And so the secret was kept for a long time. And like many, what do you call them? Like in the past, before there was real chemistry, many
alchemists.
Yes,
alchemy.
Yes, many alchemists actually died trying to recreate this ointment because for a while they thought it was actually a flying ointment. They didn't understand the metaphorical aspects or the mental trip aspects of the hallucinogenic properties of this substance. So eventually they figured it out what it was like really, or at least a good approximation. And so they kind of know what it smelled like. And so this artistic group of perfumers and performance artists, etc., did research on what it smelled like. And they used, obviously they didn't use poisonous materials, but they recreated the smell of this witch's brew substance, hallucinogenic flying thing. And that's Hexen Salba, which is also, the story is wild, right?
I'm going to zooming in. Let's take a look at that. Look at the artwork on there with these obscure sort of botanical specimens that I presume are going to be part of this brew.
Right.
That's very neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if you go to their website and look at I think they only have like maybe 5 or 6 fragrances. Each one has a similarly interesting, cool, really historic, well-researched, very freaky, actually, story behind it. So, they're wild, the stories and they're all real and historic and amazing. that this fragrance company, this brand, this artistic collective use to make the perfumes. And also, so it's very intellectually stimulating, but also their fragrances smell amazing. So like, even if you didn't know the story, you'd just be like, yeah, it smells good, I'll wear it, right? Because they don't make something, because, you know, sometimes like with these indie perfumers, like they have amazing backstories or whatever, but the fragrance isn't that great. But the fragrance is also great. So I definitely recommend checking it out and trying it. You can get samples or whatever. Their sample pack is really cool. And not too expensive. So
magnificent. Okay, we're going to turn over to the chat really quickly. My good friend and a very intelligent and knowledgeable young gentleman, Algebraeus, wishing us good evening, and he is letting us know that Quentin Bish is the mastermind behind Marseille. Or I always
Marseille.
Philippe. I always Marseille. Okay. I'm like crying. Philippe, help me. Marseille. And let's go back here, and we have people going, wow, they're loving the story behind that one. Emily says, I love that one. I think I received a decant from JJ in a package. I spread the love when I sent a package to Emily because I enjoyed it so much, and I've actually been thinking of getting a full bottle of it, but I wanted somebody else to experience it. So it went from Rachel to me and then to Emily. She's thoroughly enjoyed it, just sprayed it on her wrist. Can't say that it makes her feel the description, but it's still fun. It's not titillating you. It isn't.
You're not flying in your mind.
Flying in your mind. Fernando, that's an AB conversation. I'll see my way out of it. Greetings, buonasera from Douglas W. The last pronunciation was good. Thank you. The licorice really stands out in Hexen Salba. Delightful. Rachel to the French rescue. Yeah. It's like sometimes I'm on point and sometimes I think that I'm right and I'm wrong. And sometimes I think I'm wrong and I'm right. But I'm always glad that everybody's here to help each other. And maybe too proper to admit. And that's fine. We don't expect you to confess. And an ABC conversation. I haven't heard that since the 90s. Hey, you can count on me for the good 90s references. Hey, I was an adolescent in the 90s, so it's all locked into my brain. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Okay, I'll move on to one here. And I did say I promise mentioning Comme des Garçons since we were on the topic of Comme des Garçons. And this is a more recent release. I don't know how many years ago. It might have been 2 or 3 years ago that this one had come out, or maybe actually probably 4 or 5 years ago. This is a Chlorophyll Gardenia. It's part of the Clash series. And this one, from what I recall, was composed by Caroline Demur, or Caroline Demur, D-U-M-U-R, Philippe, help me out. Demur or Demur. And this is, as the name would suggest, the chlorophyll greenness, the chlorophyll. It's just this very watery green, sharp kind of quality to it. And then that stearyl acetate that I was talking about earlier, which is a key component in Gardenia Accords, is what really carries this as well. And it is an excellent gardenia scent. And what's wonderful about this gardenia scent is for once the gardenia doesn't turn into coconut and milky lactones and just, not that that's a bad thing, but I find it to be kind of boring. I like a gardenia that does showcase some of those other qualities of the gardenia, even down to like that, as I said, the stearyl acetate, kind of like green, sharp top notes of it that I find really enjoyable. But that's a Clash Chlorophyll Gardenia. Algebraeus, I think that you appreciate this one as well. We've had some conversations on it. The CDG Gardenia doesn't smell of gardenia at all to me. It does to me. It just smells like the green, like the greener aspects of it. He says, but he finds it sensational nonetheless and loves wearing it. Yeah, I definitely do pick up. I smell gardenias all the time. I'm always picking up gardenias and then unfortunately killing them because I can't keep them alive. So to me, it does remind me very much of a gardenia, especially the fresh gardenia, not necessarily the one that's wilting and over ripening and decaying. So that's my contribution in this round. And on to Alex.
Yeah, you were speaking about Comme des Garçons that are quite famous for their incense fragrances. And since I'm a sucker for incense, this is not a Comme des Garçons, but searching for an incense that had green notes, La Liturgie des Heures by Jean-Claude. This is what I found, and I think the incense is very, very present, but there's coniferous, piney notes. I think it's pine. And something of a damp forest in the background. Maybe vetiver. I haven't checked the notes, but this is very, very beautiful because it mixes two fragrance words that rarely go together, because this is a very, very churchy incense, but with these green touches that make a difference, that give it a different kick, more balsamic side to the. I think you have this one too, JJ.
I'm on mute. Yeah, I just took it. Yeah, I do, and that's actually a favorite of mine as far as the incense category. It's much more nuanced, but it's beautiful. Yeah.
It's not the typical green, but we are not here for the typical greens. There are no polo in my lineup tonight.
Philippe has helped us out with let's see if I can do this here, Philippe. Demeux. Is that what we're talking about? So if we have that Demeux. Let me know if I'm getting closer there. Algebraius says he doesn't know if it's been mentioned, but I'll put forward Mousse de Cartier, a Galbanum Shalimar that inspired a slew of green vanillas, and I can think of a number of those. Obsession and Moschino and Crazy Krizia and a slew of others that followed Mousse de Cartier. I don't have it by my side because I almost feel like that's another category unto itself, but I think it's definitely worth mentioning because it definitely is that green galbanum in the beginning of the development. So I think that's definitely worthy of a mention, Mousse de Cartier. So thank you for mentioning that one. Darren Allen says, "Don't feel bad, JJ. I've never met a gardenia that I haven't killed. They're hard to keep alive indoors, especially up here in New England. What am I thinking? I'm torturing these poor plants. Great learning of different fragrances on here. Thank you very much, Eric Lee. Not but okay, so Dummer.
Dumur.
Am I doing it now?
Dumur.
Yeah. Dumur. Okay, Dumur. I'll practice more later. I don't think polo is green except in the color of the bottle and juice. To me, it's woody. Like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, if something is perceived as green to you, even if it is not the green that is traditionally considered by those who smell things and say, "Oh, that smells like green leaves or green grass," it could still be green to you. You know, this is a matter of perception. It's a matter of what lights up in your brain. If green lights up in your brain, then that is a green fragrance as far as you're concerned. Fernando Soto says, "Good one, Alex. I have a sample. Very interesting mix of incense and green. Wonderful coniferous scent, too. If we were doing like evergreen scent, evergreen, there you go. So it fits in perfectly. But, specifically in that category of like pine and spruce and fir, it fits squarely into that. Mm-hmm. Cartier Roadster, another lovely addition. Yeah. Mint in full effect in Cartier Roadster, but the fresh mint effect, not minty toothpaste. And Dumur. I'm going to practice more. Darren, I plan on getting either Dorian's Fougere or Bathory soon. Get both if you can. Both are brilliant. And then we have Algebraius. I smelt the new Mont. Oh, here we go with more French. Mont le Jolie from Astier de Velat. A beautiful mint and basil, but for me, spoiled by fruity notes. Womp womp. They always got to throw in that thing to kind of get the TikTok crowd interested. Darren, are you referring to Demeux? And we have PS. Good night, JJ, Alex, and Rachel. And good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. All right, Rachel, we'll move on to your next selection.
So I'm so glad that Alex mentioned the combination of kind of green plus incense, especially that pine plus incense. It's such a lovely combination. My favorite pine plus incense, I didn't actually get it out. It's back in that closet, but it's Tom Ford Vert d'Encens. So like green incense.
Nice.
It's discontinued, like so many Tom Fords. So
I
tried to pull things that were still available, but it has that same kind of beauty as the Jevois. And Jevois is a great, like if you're looking for that, it's a great bottle to pick. I did pull, speaking of unavailable fragrances, I did pull one just because it's so interesting, and it does have that kind of dark forest floor, and then there's a touch of incense in this also, but the incense is not prominent. This is something that JJ and I talked about last stream that we did together. It's Providence Perfume, and it's called Indolis. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see, and it's with JJ's our last guest, and it's just so beautiful. And it's like this. It's an unusual fragrance in that it has like this. It uses like a mushroom extraction note, and so it has like this forest floor, tons of oak moss, like very mushroomy, very like you can smell dirt in it in a really beautiful way. It's like being. So I grew up. Part of my childhood was in Texas on the prairie, and then part of my childhood was in the Ozark Mountains, like deep in the mountains, right? And I don't know if anyone has ever been like hiking in a really deep, untouched forest, and you get like a soil that is still living, that has a lot of living fragrances, where the life cycle is you smell living things, dead things, all in that very live dirt, not like city dirt, right? And it's in here, as well as the pine and the green and the richness, but it's kind of a complex, dark, deep green. And this scent captures it very well. So if you ever have a chance to smell this or run across this fragrance, I would recommend it.
Very nice. That was an excellent live stream. I think it deserves more views. So if folks who are tuned in here, it would behoove you to check out the previous Effluvium episode that we had with Charna Ethier of Providence Perfume Company.
Oh, I forgot to mention, the name. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Just such a joy to talk to. Great sense of humor, great anecdotes, great stories. Check out the last Effluvium live stream that we did with Charna Ethier, Providence Perfume Company. Moving right along, I think I'm going to do a 3 for here because there's just so many to talk about and so little time. So I won't, spend too much time on each one individually. But I think what I want to do is sort of an ode to a unique note, a note that doesn't get much airtime. It is mastic resin or lentisque. Mastic resin. It is a resin much like olivinum is a resin, or labdanum is a resin, or myrrh. But the thing about mastic, even though it has some incensey facets, it's very much an earthy green scent that is not quite like anything else. And I'm going to share 3 fragrances that I think are spectacular that prominently feature it. And one of them being a fragrance from Sicily, Paris that was originally marketed to the gents, but has since been re-released under a different but similar name. And this is called Eau de Car. And this is the bottle. And it has a lot of this mastic in it. Maybe this will be the one that I'll spray on me here. So this was, it may have been briefly, it's so good. And what I love about mastic resin is the way that citrus and petitgrain, their interplay between those top notes and the mastic that's sort of like at the core of it. It's just so bracing and so like exhilarating to my nose, at least. So it is now in production as Le Rêve de Car and is marketed as a unisex scent, which is nice, which just makes sense because I think it's unisex. But this is it in its original incarnation. So it's just a wonderful scent. You can still get this version, and I don't think it's too expensive, even though this version has been discontinued. But it opens up with a bergamot and lemon and petitgrain, very green. There's like a tea feel to it. and kind of like a reedy kind of wildflowery kind of scent in the heart of it. And then it drives down to some woods and vetiver and a little bit of an amberiness. And it's just one of the most underrated fragrances for one of the most underrated houses, which I think is Sicily. So that's Eau de Car, or in its new version, Eau de Rêve de Car, Eau de Rêve de Car. And another one, Mastic. Mask Milano. Who's a fan of Mask Milano? Raise your hand if you are. Do you have Taralba or do you have Sleight of Fern?
No, this is Sleight of Fern, which also uses Mastic. Well, yeah. I want to hear about yours.
So Taralba is another one. Oh, there we have samples are excellent. If you can't have a bottle or you can't afford a bottle, just milk that sample for as long as you can. God knows I do nowadays. Taralba is also one that has Mastic or lentisque, but this, while it is more citrusy and aromatic in the opening, this is a little bit more terpenic and juniper, cypress, woody, lovely stuff. Great for the summertime. So that's Taralba. And Taralba, if I'm not mistaken, is Delphine Thierry.
Yeah, Delphine Thierry. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of her work. And Taralba is beautiful. It's a citrus aromatic, quite traditional, but with a twist. And it's something that for the summer has also a power and a lasting power that's really great.
Do you know what it feels like? It feels like when it first hits my skin, it's like a bitter aperitif, like sort of like Sanbitter or like Campari, that kind of like that, you know, it just hits your nose that way. There's something called the trigeminal nerve. It's kind of that thing that kind of like pinches a little bit. It's like when, you know, menthol does it, some other things do it, and it does it here with this. And then it's just so gorgeous. And there's like this sort of like a slightly dirty undercurrent to it as well. So nice. Okay, that's the second one. I promised that I wasn't going to go too long with these three, but there was a third one, a third mastic. This one from Les Jardins Retrouvés, Mousse Arashiyama. And Mousse Arashiyama is Maxence Mout, who is I've befriended him because he caught wind that I had said such glowing things about this one, and now we've been chatting about all other things under the sun. And so good. Now, don't be deceived, even though oak moss is in this, real oak moss is in this, but to me, when I smell this, I don't necessarily think of like the oak moss that we associate with perfume. So he did a little bit of trickery in this, and it feels more like the mossiness of the true moss, not the lichen moss, but like the moss that is in the same family of plants as like ferns, you know, the spore-bearing plants. So like that green mossiness, and it has a fig leaf in it as well. And it has that mastic that just fuses and fixes everything together. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. So that's Mousse Arashiyama from Les Jardins Retrouvés. All right. So those are my three mastics. And then we'll move on to Alex.
Okay, since Darren is in the chat, I will talk briefly about one of his creations. I don't know if it's the last but it's Static Olfactive Into the Wild.
Ah, nice.
And this is beautiful because it's kind of a traditional green fragrance. Kind of it has all the notes that were common in the 80s powerhouses. It has rooted in the tradition, but it has a very modern feel. It opens up very extremely fresh. It's really icy fresh. Like this, as he said, he wanted to recreate the experience of a breath of fresh mountain air, and to me, it's perfectly rendered here. Then on my skin, it becomes a bit soapy green, in a beautiful way, with light floral touches like honeysuckle, which is beautiful. I love the smell of honeysuckle, by the way. And then in the dry down, it becomes more earthy, woody. There's patchouli, kind of soil. Not forget that the soil smell like Orisa Legrand Chypre-Mousse. It's not that far, but it's earthy, it's woody, and I honestly, there is Castoreum and Civet, but I don't get honestly a lot of the animalic kick. I think they are used in the traditional way as fixatives because this thing is powerful and lasts long, and it gives you really a complete spectrum of the green side of a forest, of a deep forest. I think it's a beautiful creation. From the notes, I think it can have something in common with Darren's Fougère. But I have never smelled Darren Fougère because, unfortunately, Darren Allen's creations here in Italy, you can forget about them. But I just guess from the notes. But when you read the notes, it can mean something, and the total opposite of what you thought. So it's only my guess. But this is a great fragrance.
And tell us again the name of the house for everyone.
Static Olfactive.
Static Olfactive. Wonderful.
That sounds lovely. Another one for me to try. And speaking of Darren Allen, that's actually who I'm going to talk about next, because Darren Allen's fragrances to me are amazing. They're top 5 for me of all fragrances. One that I love is Fête de Noël. It features Mousse de Saxe accord that Darren has studied and created himself. He also does a lot of his own tinctures, a lot of his own extractions. He's just such a well-studied, excellent artisanal independent perfumer. Like, for me, very much like the ideal of an artisanal independent perfumer. I love Fête de Noël. It's, let me read the notes here because I don't have them memorized. Aldehydes, orange, bergamot, clove, Myrica. Middle notes are jasmine, ylang, rose de maille, and tuberose. Base notes are mousse de Saxe, I just love so much. Labdanum, musk, sandalwood, patchouli, incense, civet, orris, ambergris, vanilla, and resins. And it really, I believe, and Darren, I believe, is here. Just correct me if I'm wrong. That the kind of the goal of this fragrance was really to play with the notes, the visions, the ideas of Chypres in the 1920s, with those, to kind of play with those styles and create something modern and fresh and alive. Because, if you buy a bottle from the 1920s today, a vintage, it is not going to smell like it did in 1920. So I love vintage so much, but you're never going to actually smell a vintage bottle the way that it smelled back in the day. And Darren, these amazing, amazing perfumes that he makes, they're like traveling back in time, right? To be alive back then, because they have this energy, this vitality, this freshness, but they also honor those styles that are so beautiful, like in this new way. And they're like neoclassical, I guess, maybe is the right way. I mean, I wish, JJ, we should have Darren come on the show sometime. How amazing would that be?
Oh, of course. We could have him back. We had him last season. But I want to get more perfumers to come, return as guests. I want him to come back, John Beeble to come back, Diane Sinclair, all great guests from the past. Definitely. Just wanted to say hi to Oris Eris. Thank you so much for dropping by. Howdy back to you. Lovely to have you here.
And I'm actually going to wear it today. This is what I'm wearing. So I'm going to spray on a little bit more because it's so beautiful. This is like my second or third bottle. I even have the cream.
Amazing.
I really love it.
Darren just made a confirmation for you that you were correct. Excellent. I have. Oh, and another great perfumer that I would like to have for a return conversation is Marie-Pierre Blanchet, and that is my next one, which I will share. Which is, now I got this pronunciation down pat because Marie helped me out with this one. Feuille, from Nisquio Parfums. Feuille is an ultra. This actually wouldn't be so far off from Malame in the fact that she is capturing the essence of, these feral, unruly plants in meadows and gardens and in the perimeter of the woods. There is a lot of chamomile here, and there is a green stemmy leafiness of violet leaves, tomato leaves. A linden blossom accord is in this as well. Just a spectacular scent. And this was actually one of my favorite releases of last year, as I mentioned, in my top 10 fragrances of 2023. I think this year it's going to be a top 5. But I did a top 10 last year, and this was one of them. And she is... the last time I talked to her, I almost started getting emotional because I just think that she is the one to look out for. She is just, I from what I know, she has, some mentorship, but she is predominantly self-taught, not formally trained, but you could have fooled me. There's just something about the way that she has a handle of mixing and blending and formulation and insight into the materials that she uses. But this is Feuille from Nisquio Parfums. It's ultra green, wild, weedy, wildflowery trees, everything. Just it's revelatory. That's a good word.
JJ, can you spell the brand name?
Oh yes, Nisquio Feuille. I can put it in the chat as well.
Thank you.
Miskeo Parfums, and the name is Feuille.
That means
thank you,
leaves, I think, in French.
I just did I spell it correctly? I did. Okay. Yes, and if I didn't already put 2 perfumes on, I would spray this on as well, but it would be a little too dissonant with the other ones, and I just want to appreciate it on its own. Yeah, that's my
so lovely.
Yeah.
This is one of the fragrances that to me means spring in a bottle. This is totally the smell of spring, of those plants that are coming to life and starting to spread their aromas in early spring. This is beautiful. Can remind you a bit, not as much for the smell, but the vibe that it creates to Mal, Synthetic Jungle, or Dior Dune. As that kind of vegetal leafy greenery.
Yeah, I would say so. She the flower that's most noticeable to me for hers would be the linden blossom, even though it's much more than that. And then for Synthetic Jungle, which I'll talk about, I'll talk about it more later. But that is definitely like a lily of the valley going on in the core of that one, with everything else sort of.
They are different, but they are. Even Dior Dune is mostly a thick leaf scent, but they have this kind of leafiness, of green leafiness that the vegetal feel that is totally awesome.
We have a question from Douglas W. Does anyone here have experience with Granados fragrances? I've been wanting to check them out, but don't know where to start. I can't say that I have any experience with them. My knowledge is nil. How about the two of you?
Nope.
But I'll write it down and check it out.
Philippe, well, I guess I can say, even though we're kind of supposed to go in order, yes, Nuita Becali is making an appearance. So I'll talk about that one next.
Fantastic.
And then Eric Lee, I enjoyed visiting and chatting. Thank you for having me. Look forward to the next chat. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. And Dune had stemone as the green note, which is leafy. Stemone being used in fig leaf accords. Synthetic jungle, apart from stearyl acetate, has a lot of isocyclocitral, which is another very green material. And we're going to move on to Rachel's selection.
Oh, did Alex go?
Oh, wait, was Alex? No, wait. I think Alex just was talking about. No, he didn't actually go. No, we can't skip you. I think I kind of got sidetracked because you started waxing poetic about Fuya as well. Let's go back to you and let's have you share yours.
Okay, I compare a couple of fragrances because they have a prominent note in common. Though the note is not green, the note is immortal. And we have, they are green for different reasons. We have Sylvain Delacour Helichrys.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we have The Afternoon of a Faun.
Lovely.
They have, let's start with Sylvain Delacour Helichrys. To me, what gives the fragrance its green character is the opening. You have this blast of rosemary, but it's JJ, you have probably experience with a rosemary essential oil. When you open and you smell it, you have this blast, balsamic blast through your nostrils. Completely open.
Trigeminal effect right there. It's the camphor. Cineols, camphors. That's what hits your nose. I love it.
This is the first blast that you got from this. Then it settles down to a more green aromatic rosemary. Then musk comes into play. Immortal plays a kind of base supportive role. It's more here the immortal as mostly its hay characteristic more than its more honeyed one. It's just a touch of honey kind of note in the base, but it gives that kind of hay feel. And another star, something that I immediately recognize on my skin is the patchouli in the base, that it's one of the classiest patchouli, reminding me of the use that was made of patchouli in the 70s and the 80s in the male perfumery, and something you recently, we were speaking about Marie, something you will experience in a piece by Miss Keo. That kind of patchouli note is the same, that more or less the same kind of experience here. That it's also, in my opinion, the kind of patchouli you had in Givenchy Gentleman. That very masculine kind of patchouli, which is not camphorous or medicinal. The Afternoon of a Faun, the immortal is different, is more on the honey side. This should be a green fragrance. Unfortunately, on my skin, I always struggle with the rose note. It tends to overpower everything else. But this is not as overpowering as Egoist or a Bit Rouge, when I can basically just smell rose. This is as a green woody base, which is beautiful, very round, very masculine, and I love it. don't use it very often. I must be in the mood, but it's a great fragrance. Very lovely. I could I brought today from Aldo this or Attaquer le Soleil Marquis de Sade, which is an wonderful experiment about labdanum, but which is also a very green fragrance. But or you or someone like you is the minty one.
Yeah.
But I think the afternoon of a phone is as good as anything from.
I think it's my favorite from the house.
État Libre d'Orange.
Yeah, État Libre d'Orange. Yeah, those are some good selections. I wouldn't have thought of Afternoon of the Fawn, but you are right. There are green facets to it. And I think I sometimes overlook that because of that, because of the Immortelle that's in it. But Immortelle, I think, has sort of a green adjacency, at least. To me, it smells very yellow, but hey, it takes yellow and blue to make green. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think it's an excellent choice. Yeah.
Immortelle is very versatile. It can go with green notes like in these two fragrances. It goes wonderfully with leather, as in Histoire de Parfums 1740, or in Naomi Gutzir Kier Velour. And it can go with everything, or another one that's very good and it's very green with Immortelle is Sunshine Man by Amouage, which I only have a sample, unfortunately. I'm searching a bottle. And
Prof. Melvin, hey.
Hi.
Hello to all of us. Welcome. All right, let's move on to Rachel. Were you all set, Alex? I didn't want to cut you off there.
No.
Okay.
It's okay.
Those are some great bottles. Yeah. And
I thought they were great choices.
I'm so happy that the one that I'm about to show, that I'm actually the one presenting it, because I thought for sure one of you would start off with this, or it would be really, but you've all done both of you have brought up some amazing, unique fragrances that many of them I need to try. I haven't tried, so I'm so excited to be learning about some new stuff. But for me, this is truly one of my all-time favorite green fragrances. I spray this all over my husband quite a lot. And this is Quorum. The oak moss bomb. I know there are other fragrances with more oak moss, as I've learned from JJ. But this is, I just adore. I could bathe in oak moss. I love it. I have lots of the raw material in my little mini fridge. So I will just put some raw oak moss on my wrist and just wear it, so that I'm a little bit of a weirdo in that way. But I love Quorum. This was made in 1981 by Carlos Benaim, Max, and I don't think I can say this perfumer's name correctly, Max Gavary. And Rosendo
I think you did Gavary. Philippe, if you want to confirm, or Alex, Gavary.
Gavary.
And top notes are Artemisia, there's caraway, there's lemon, there's bergamot, grapefruit. Middle notes are pine, sandalwood, patchouli, carnation, cyclamen, and jasmine. But it's really the base, right? This is really this beautiful oak moss, green, tobacco, leather, and amber. For me, it's really the base that shines and lasts forever and ever and ever. And it's that gorgeous oak moss that I love in this fragrance. And I have lots of bottles of this because I never want to run out. What do you guys think? Do you also have this?
Oh yeah, of course. Love Quorum. I don't know if Alex, are you not as enthusiastic about it, or?
I mean, of all the 80s fragrances that I love, Quorum is probably not among my top 5 favorite. I find, but I must admit, I only have a modern bottle. I don't remember the original one. To me, is a bit messy. Kind of confused fragrance that I can't decide where it wants to go, and it's not the. I mean, I have other oak moss based fragrances that I like more, like the vintage Polo or Bowling Green.
Bowling Green is excellent.
I mean, it's not the oak moss note I love the most, or something from Rogue. Rogue does great oak moss, and also Francesca Bianchi does great oak moss with the Tuscan water. Quorum, unfortunately, it is not my cup of tea. I have it, I sometimes use it, but it's not something I gravitate towards that much.
Algebraist is highlighting something that I've actually mentioned pretty recently. I think I was actually talking about this during my Fougere Notes and Accord stream, that since the 70s, Evernil was already being used for a prominent mossiness over Oak Moss Absolute. So the lamenting of oak moss restrictions is not really necessary, apart from things like Mitsuko, where there was a higher percentage. Mitsuko had 2.5%. That's what he is pointing out as well. And I think I recall learning of that. Okay. And I think Quorum was around the same, because the thing is that Oak Moss Absolute is really powerful. So 2.5 is all that's really needed to have a really huge impact on a formula. And I think that, you know, I will have to say, because Quorum was so dependent on, you know, the combination of that amount of oak moss and the Evernil and everything else to kind of make it larger than life, that with the restrictions and changes and the fact that Quorum isn't really like a very well respected brand for, I think it's Puig is still producing it. They're not really investing any time or money into it, because it's not really a seller anymore. So I think that in more recent years, it has suffered as a result. Sean H says, I was shocked when I learned Evernil was mostly used in Polo Grün. It's true. All that hubbub about it. But I'm with Rachel, though. Like, the smell of Oak Moss Absolute is just wild. Like, I love it. I love it right out of the bottle. I would just wear it on its own if I could get away with it. And there is one fragrance, Régence Paris Oak Moss, which is, it's like, it smells like mostly like oak moss. I don't know what percentage is in it. Maybe there's like 4%. I don't know, but it is intensely oak moss. Like it is like dank. It's just so much oak moss, but it's so good. Extremely rare though, so I'm gonna try to just shut up about it. 2.5 is monstrous. You can feel it at 1.1% in a formula usually, which is good, because I think that is actually the absolute limit. If I'm not mistaken, even without the atronol and chloronatronol, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Somebody can confirm. These facts all get jumbled in my mind. Crest has more Oak Moss Absolute, supposedly, and you're talking about Polo Crest, which was released in the early 90s. It was very briefly in production, wasn't in production for a terribly long time.
Yes, it was the yellow one, and you have actually a fragrance from Chevignon that is 99% the same.
Brilliant. Okay, so where are we right now? I'm losing track. Oh, Quorum. Me. Hi. I promised that I was trying to do this, the duty of hosting and making sure everybody gets their comments in, and I'm forgetting that I have things to talk about too. And I did promise to talk about Nuit de Becli, which is, to me, and I don't throw this word around, people who know me by now, like, in my reviews these days, I'm not saying that something is a masterpiece unless I really mean it. But this,
beautiful.
It's peculiar to a lot of people, but to me, it just comes naturally. It just makes sense to me. It is absolutely beautiful. Isabelle Doyen, who was, or at least until recently, the house perfumer for Goutal, Annick Goutal, composed this one for Naomi Goodsir. This is Nuit de Becli. And this is extremely green, but it's also extremely chewy and earthy and animalic and sticky and musky. There's this Angelica. This is like a musky green. We do know that there's a tuberose here. The tuberose is not a brazen tuberose, though. It's not a tuberose that is, you know, big and bold. It's kind of like actually, you know, tame in comparison to everything else that's going on here. A lot of styrax in the dry down. Like I put this on earlier today, maybe at like 10, and on my forearm, the top of my hand and my forearm, I could still smell the styrax. I can still smell like whatever the base consists of. It's just unbelievable stuff. And it isn't really given as much praise as maybe some of the others from Naomi Good Sir. It's a little bit less accessible, but it is probably one of my favorite fragrances in the niche realm, Nuit de Bacalit from Naomi Good Sir.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful rendition of the note of tuberose that I know, and one of the very, very few, if not the only tuberose that I can easily wear.
Well, yeah, I think the tuberose is definitely, it has a supporting role there. For once, the tuberose gives you know, other things in the mix a chance to really speak their mind. Yeah. Oracero says that someone pointed out a corn masa note in Nuit de Bacalit, and I can't stop smelling it now. Perish the thought. Moving on. Green, no. I had to throw away my sample of Nuit de Bacalit. I could smell it from inside a plastic bag in a drawer. That one of the loudest perfumes I know. Yeah. It is profound. It definitely, I mean, we're not seeing any videos being made about it being a beast mode perfume. Because it's not a very accessible perfume, but I just love it for that. I love that it's violently green.
It's quite ferocious in its greenness, and I mean, I haven't smelled anything that powerful probably since the original Fahrenheit or Kouros or something like that, in terms of how intense the smell is even from a distance and how long lasting it is. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to yours, Alex. You can do a couple at a time now that we're
I just have one left.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, one left that would be a praise to the king of green notes, vetiver, of course. And of all the 80 plus vetiver fragrance that I have, I went for Parfum d'Empire vetiver bourbon. I could have put I chose Fougère Parfum d'Empire because of the sheer amount of green fragrances that there are in actually I will spray this one, and the sheer amount of green fragrances that has in his lineup. You have talked about Malame. We can talk about Immortal Course. We can talk about Fougère Bengal, which we can talk. Though it's an amber scent, Aziyad has some green touches, and this is so incredibly balsamic. It's almost boozy. How can you describe in English something that is a boozy smell without the alcohol part? I don't know. Liquor-like?
Yeah, I would say kind of like a liqueur, because sometimes liqueurs don't really have a boozy aroma per se.
Yeah, it's kind of when I try to describe the smell of licorice, that is that kind of warm, round smell, but that kind of liquor-like without the booze. And this is similar in that there's very bitter touches, kind of also damp. but very green, and I'm trying to find that word. Kind of, it's so deep that it's kind of powdery in the end.
We have a algebraist sharing some of his thoughts. It's very rooty, crisp, contrasting against the wet earthiness, almost parsnip for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Douglas W. Like pastis?
Yeah, pastis is basically an anise.
Yeah.
An anise liquor that's used in the south of France, and of course you can compare it to the Italian sambuca or to the Greek ouzo. It's that, or the Turkish raki. Yes, that kind of rootiness, that it's almost powdery, kind of woody and powdery, and it's, to me, it's beautiful. It's not maybe the vetiver for everybody, because you need an acquired taste for vetiver before appreciating something like that. But vetiver is then, together, I think, with oak moss and pine, the quintessential green note.
Right. It does evoke that greenness for sure. Drefudan, hello. In honor of the podcast, scent of the day, Chypre-Mousse. Chypre-Mousse is one of my all-time favorites. Litz Elegant, Chypre-Mousse definitely is appropriate for discussing green fragrances. Great. Douglas W., if you want to talk about odd notes, I can't smell Rogue's Mousse Illuminée without picking up a Tootsie Roll note. Isn't that something? All right. And we have Ricardo Naves. Ducitas Le Sillage Blanc is one of the best modern green frags, in my opinion, by far.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Very good. Very much and it has a lot of those quinolines, very much an IBQ kind of thing going on there. That's what really stands out to me, is the isobutyl quinoline, kind of that flinty, smoky, leathery, earthy, weird kind of that we know from things like Bandy or Cabochard and so on and so forth. And Pissarra, that's her exploration with that material, and I think it's very well done. Yeah.
Chypre-Mousse, yes, I love it. I have a decant. More than green, I will describe it as brown fragrance.
More brown, yeah. See, when I think brown, I think of also things like the forest understory in autumn. Kind of gives me like shades of like brown and beige and tan and sepia. And Bilbo Fraggins, Nikolai Patchouli Intense is my favorite green. Fernando says vetiver bourbon, another one added to my list. My pocket just started to complain. All right, Rachel, what is the one that you have lined up for us?
This is such a great discussion. Alex, you just made me think of one of my favorite vetivers, which is Escale en Haïti by Les Indémodables. It's a great vetiver. It's very light. It's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, I guess. It's a little bit lighter and a little bit more towards the like grassy, almost hay-like qualities rather than the rooty, earthy qualities. But it's quite lovely in the summer. It's a little cologne made with vetiver as a kind of the star ingredient. But my next perfume I wanted to talk about is Paloma Picasso.
Ooh, oh yes, that's the Le Parfum version.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm having just a little bit of trouble with my phone.
So is that the Le Parfum version? Like there's the Paloma Picasso. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And it's the Chypre floral. I believe it came out in 1984 by Francis Bocris. Francis Beaucris. I'm sorry. My French is leaving me. I apologize. My son is kind of over here. If you hear noise, I apologize. And it's just a really...
Uh-oh. I think I see a spinning wheel. Do you, Alex?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The same. I think we lost our connection.
Yeah. Oh, no. I hope that we can get her back soon. Why don't we do this? We're reaching the home stretch here. I'm going to sort of... there's one more, and I have people... we got something here from Rachel. Internet is out. We're going to... Oh, okay. Hopefully we'll have her joining us again. 5G not reliable. Pooh. Hopefully she can join us before we wrap things up here. Well, I thought it was important for me to mention one of the green fragrances that sort of started them all, really, and that is, and this is the Calice Becker version, which I find to be very well done, but some are partial to, Van Ver, originally composed by Jamais. So we would be remiss without mentioning Van Ver in a green fragrances review. So the lovely Van Ver, this is the one that she did, Calice Becker, in the 90s. And compared to my sample, I don't really find much to really fuss about as far as the difference, except for the fact that Jamais is way more galbanum forward, like biting galbanum forward. This still has the galbanum, but it's a bit more floral. And I think that they attempted to slightly modernize it, while also paying respect to the original formula. But they wanted to modernize it a bit to make it commercially viable in the 90s. But I think it's still brilliant. This is Balmain's Van Ver, this Calice Becker version.
Yeah, a couple of vintages that I think are worth mentioning that are quite green, though maybe it's not their the main focus on which people think about them. Guerlain Vol de Nuit, which is the third of the Melancholy trilogy after L'Heure Bleue Après l'Ondée. It's the one that has the brightest vibe of the three, due to those green notes compared to the purple notes that were characteristics of the aforementioned two ones. And another Jean Couturier Coriandre.
Coriandre for sure. Yeah. Jean Couturier Coriandre. I guess what I can do is I can go through some of the others as more like honorable mentions without, pontificating about each one of them. But here's some of the others that I have. We have Alliage, Estée Lauder's Alliage, still in the box because I keep a lot of these in the box. It protects them, That's right. So I keep a lot of them in the box. Here is the lovely Alliage with this shoulder top in the bottle. And that is a Bernard Chant. And also Bernard Chant is the sibling to Alliage, which we know... One of my most watched videos when I did a comparison series way back when I started the channel, Aramis Devon. So that's another one that would be worth mentioning for green fragrances. Moving on. Another Estée Lauder Private Collection. And Private Collection is known for its unusual chrysanthemum note, but also... one of the only other well-known fragrances that has what is a chrysanthemum accord is this lovely one, which is De Profundis, which I did a review for earlier this year, and I found this Glacial, which means skyscraper in French, Glacial bottle for a good deal, and I snatched it up, and I said, you know what, it's about time I have a whole bunch of this to lavish myself in and feel sorrowful, sweet sorrow.
Another one that featured chrysanthemum note is Amouage Myths, which I don't have here because my bottle is on the way. And on the modern side, I'm going to the samples. Apart from the aforementioned Dusita Le Sillage Blanc.
Le Sillage Blanc, and I have an honorable mention from Dusita, which is Erewhon. For those who would appreciate something like Palais Jamais,
Erewhon is fantastic.
Erewhon. And I was brandishing this one just a moment ago. This is Jean-Louis Cherrier, the Eau de Toilette. Another gorgeous, gorgeous green sheeper from the late 70s.
Another sample of a brand we mentioned before that actually Rachel mentioned, Storas Kugan. This is
yes.
Phantom de Mole. I got to know Storas Kugan because I found them in a shop in Helsinki. I smelled the whole collection. Unfortunately, the one that Rachel presented earlier wasn't there. But they are all good, but mostly too sweet for my taste. But this is wonderful, a bitter green, fresh, very springy. It's totally great.
Robert Piguet, Futur from Robert Piguet. This is one of the reconstructions from the long discontinued Piguets that really hit the mark. And I've smelled the vintage version, and it is almost exactly like the vintage. This is a Futur Robert Piguet, ultra green, neon green, Chypre style. Gorgeous stuff. Oh, metal. Paco Rabanne metal. You like your hyacinths really punchy and really bold and bright. Metal Eau de Toilette. I guess I probably would recommend like more of a vintage version, like from this period, which I think was like the early 90s to mid 90s. Rachel has informed us as soon as she gets internet, she can be back on. We'll try to stick around for a while. We'll run a little bit over 2 minutes, so at least we can get her to jump back on.
Yeah. Another modern brand, another new perfumer is a Polish guy named Jan Barba. And let me see if I can.
We'll zoom in.
Focus it. Well, it's written Jan Barba. Maybe like this. Okay.
Jan Barba.
Jan Barba. This is for example, Chypre is a beautiful skeletal Chypre, just the compulsory elements. And the one I want to talk about is Ayoku. Ayoku is a very earthy, modern oak mossy fragrance, very rooted in the 80s. But modern, with patchouli, with earthy tones, but really a compendium on oak moss. That's an oak moss bomb.
Speaking of green, I'm testing Dior Joule current version tonight.
Current version is totally awesome.
I love the current version. I like it a little bit more, honestly, than the older version. The older version's like it kind of feels kind of like an also ran. It's like it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I would still wear the hell out of it, but there's something about the newer version. Perhaps it has something to do with those top notes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the fact that the jasmine is like really more prominent. I don't know. I really like it. Ricardo Nez. Oh, yes, Paloma. I got that recently along with Animal.
Animal is something I never tried. Well, for example, another beast from the 80s that I like the reformulation better than the original is Giorgio Beverly Hills. Giorgio for Men. It was a patchouli bomb, very heavy. Now the patchouli is still very present, but it's more on a cedar kind of vibe. I like it more. It's fresher, it's easier to wear. It's still extremely powerful bomb.
One of the first compositions, I think the first commercial composition.
Seriously.
The Campagna, Sicily.
Beautiful.
Jean-Claude Ellena. I think this was his first commercial release. And it's tomato leaf and basil, just a beautiful effervescent green. I'll zoom a little bit to show the bottle a little bit better. Here you go. I don't really have a good zoom on this camera. I need to do another upgrade. I've done a couple upgrades since I started doing this, but this is Eau de Campagna, Sicily, Paris.
It's a very, like we were talking before, very, very underrated brand. For example, people consider Eau de Soir a feminine fragrance. To me, it's perfectly unisex. And one of the best example of how a bitter citrus opening should be done.
More gray flannel, new gray flannel, old gray flannel. It doesn't matter. I could do a comparison video of the two of these. This is a Jacqueline Cochran version, a splash. When it said cologne, I'll zoom again. When it says, oh, what a shit camera. I wanted to, that says gray flannel cologne, and the newer version, eau de toilette spray. And let me tell you, it's lovely that I have this older version, but there's such a minimal difference, honestly. There's so much talk. And I'm sure you've heard it before too, Alex, about, you got to get the older version of gray flannel. It's a shell of its former self. And I'm like, what are they talking about? They smell almost exactly alike. In fact, like the older version, obviously the top notes are a little bit more muted, but other than that, they're like the same. I'm just surprised by that. So, but I'm glad that I have both old and new, and they're both fabulous. Gray flannel. And then also another one from Jeffrey Bean. And you know this one, Alex, I'm sure, the bowling green.
Yes.
In the corrugated cylinder, and it pops like you're opening up Pringles. And there's the bottle, bowling green, fabulous stuff, 80s, like, it's like what does this remind me of? There's another one that's similar to this, kind of maybe like the Boss Sport, but I like this one a little bit more, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I'm bringing some of my 80s old decants. This, I don't know if to define it green, because it's so complex. It has something green, but this is Daniel Blend 30.
Dunhill Blend 30. Yes. Hold on a second, Alex. I'll go grab my bottle. Talk with the audience a little bit about that one, if you don't mind.
Yeah. No, we didn't change the theme to 80s. We are still talking about green fragrances, but of course, when you talk about the green fragrances, the 80s were, in the 80s fragrance, green notes were extremely prominent. There are barely a few fragrances from that decade and the early 90s, the Dawn Future, Oak Moss, Pine, Galbanum, Vetiver, and so it's hard to go on with a show speaking about green fragrances and never talk about the 80s. The 80s are the epitome of the green notes. Yes, this has green, but it's also ambery. It's also spicy. It has everything. It's really a complete fragrance.
Did you hear that snap?
Oh, yeah.
It always snaps. Oh, God. I could drink this stuff if it didn't make me sick. Blend 30 is really otherworldly. I just like, and then it snaps back in. Yeah, this little modest splash bottle. And the color is beautiful, too.
Yeah.
Like the color is like this bluish green. You want to touch? Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's look at that. It probably doesn't translate very well on the. Yeah. Look at that.
No, just let me take something white and.
Okay. Yeah. So there's got to be some. I mean, I don't think they intended for it to be that color with like dyes because it's in this color bottle anyhow. So it must have to do with the materials that are in it, because it's not a showy, this is not a transparent bottle where you're seeing the green. So I can't help but to think that some of the materials.
This is also green despite the color. Filanagi.
Finagi.
It's very coniferous at least, so it has definitely a green side.
Hey, Pat Lester, welcome. We have 20 people tuned on. We're past the second hour here. We're going to run into, probably do another half hour or so here talking about green scents. Right now, we're just kind of doing some honorable mentions. I should probably put myself on the screen as well. So we were just talking about Dunhill Blend 30. Yeah. And I was flashing Guerlain Vetiver, which I felt like was necessary. Okay. And then one from Miller and Harris, if you like your basil, you like your aromatics. This is Fleur de Sel.
Oh, no, I missed that one. But
yeah.
I have found some great fragrances.
We have to mention green water. Green water. Green, come on. Classic.
Jacques Fat.
Jacques Fat.
Yeah. Also, Loden is a great green fragrance from Jacques Fat.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. And let's see. We talked about this. Oh. Fig leaf. Ninfeo Male.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Another Isabelle Doyen.
Philosicos.
This is the EDP. Fig leaf is a green, a milky kind of green, the lactones that are in it as well. Beautiful. Some more Hermès, Un Jardin sur le Toit. Another Jean-Claude Ellena.
Yeah, this is very aquatic take on green, like
Cacharel Eden.
What
I know how much you love that one. And Synthetic Jungle. We were talking about Synthetic Jungle earlier. And Anne Filippo, now called, Synthetic Nature, because
I don't know.
What was the reason for them to change jungle to nature? Oh,
I don't know.
Maybe Kenzo had an issue with it.
Oh, yes, maybe.
Cabotine, Glé, the broccoli.
My daughter has that.
Oh, really? Yeah. The original Cabotine?
Yeah, but we bought it because it was in one of those packages with the body lotion, and she likes the body lotion, but the fragrance is too intense, too floral for her. And considering that her signature scent is Mugler Alien, just think how intense Cabotine is.
Yeah.
I
can see that.
I have just a sample. The bottle is in the other room.
All
I
right,
have the
let's
full
zoom
bottle.
in.
Lucien Ferrero, where is it? Ce n'est pas un patchouli. This is a very fresh, minty take on the patchouli. And I found it in my this year, like last year, I was searching for incenses that were fresh enough to be worn in summer. This year I'm going with the patchoulis, and this is one of them because it's fresh, it's very citrus in the opening, and the patchouli is kept on the very green side of patchouli, so it's eminently wearable in warm weather.
This one isn't being produced any longer, as far as I know. This is Clinique Wrappings.
No.
If you want a very unusual release from 1990 that is like a seaside aromatic pine with some florals, Clinique Wrappings. For a time, they were selling this still only around Christmas, like a 25 ml bottle with like in a set, but that doesn't even show up anymore. I have a review on this on the base notes and the Fragrantica. You should be able to find it easily enough, where I talk at length about that one.
Floris Elite.
Yes.
This is green. The juice is green. It's one of the greenest juices you can. Let me check if I can show you from here. No, it's not. But from the bottle, if you search on Google from a bottle of Elite, you can see how green it is, and it smells extremely, extremely green. Oh, there's something
balsam fir in that. It has some balsam fir absolute I can pick up.
Yeah, there's a fragrance that.
Oh, sorry. L'Orevé Dubert. This is part of a series that Sicily came out with a couple of years ago. This is a minty green. This is a shiso leaf, geranium. There's also buchu leaf, which is also called agatha. It's hard to say this word. Agathosma. Agathosma. It's a type of leaf, and it's like it's similar in its feel to like cassis leaf, but very sharp, very unusual. The pure oil is like very almost ammoniac, but when diluted and used in perfume, it adds some interesting sparkling green effects. But this is a lovely one too, that was recently released. I'll do a review of this summer. I'm getting down.
There's a review I wanted to ask you. If you had, because it was one of the trio of aldehydic florals my mom had with Chanel No. 5, and my historical name is Rive Gauche. It was Nocturne de Caron.
Oh, Nocturne de Caron, yeah.
And it was, far less penetrating than Rive Gauche. It was much softer, I remember that, but I haven't smelled it for 40 years, so I would like to read a review if you want to make it sooner or later.
Maybe I can pick up a bottle because they're not too expensive. It's not one of those that's.
Caron is not expensive.
A lot of them aren't. Yeah, I mean, some of them are. Some are like.
The exclusive line, maybe yes.
Yeah, Fathom V from Beaufort.
Oh.
Really an elegiac type of green, lilies and grass, like kind of like funereal, gothic. I think add this as part of my Gothic fragrances video. Yeah.
Yeah. All their line is pretty Gothic.
Yeah, it's true. Some of them are a little too Gothic, even for somebody who can dip their toes in goth like me.
Maybe I have the most Gothic one. In fact, is my favorite. It's Rake and Ruin. That might be a bit too much for
Claire. Hey, welcome.
Hey,
We're going to be on for about 10-15 more minutes, but do make sure to tune into the archive. We did have Rachel here earlier. She unfortunately had lost her signal and may or may not be able to return because I can only be on for about 10-15 more minutes. Douglas W, JJ, another one you had in that Gothic video that's very green is Eucharist. Yep, Eucharist from Geoff Trumper. Fudepsen is worth mentioning for green.
Artemisia is another.
Yeah, Artemisia, Wormwood.
What's the other name? Absinthe or
Artemisia, Absinthe, Wormwood. Yeah, I think we covered all of them.
Davana is another.
Davana is an interesting one, even though it's in the Artemisia family, because that's more like kind of wine-like.
Yeah,
very interesting, like with like a weird dried fruitiness and like this. Love the smell of Davana. And wow, I think that was all of them that I pulled out, except I wanted to mention this because it's a new instrument. No, actually this is from Eau de Bougies.
Oh,
I got the samples in today.
Which is
Bougies. This is Pia Long is the perfumer. Nick Gilbert is the creative director. And this particular one is a green that I haven't even yet smelled. Do you think that we should do, Alex, do you think I should do like a first impression live?
Yeah, why not? Which is Verdant.
Verdant, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't I do that? I'll put that on my hand here.
I think you will like it.
Let's try it out. Well, I like to show when I do the... Got to prime it, and then we have it. Okay. Let's see. Here goes nothing. Ooh, okay. Ooh, it's kind of like an ivy.
Yeah.
It feels like ivy to my nose. Like I don't have the notes list in front of me. I'm not too concerned about getting every note on point.
I think it's very leafy, but it's very modern. It's not the traditional leafiness like I don't know, Philosicos.
No, it's not necessarily figgy. I think that there is some stemone in this, which would, with that and like a lactone, would make up a fig accord, but this is the stemone isn't necessarily with any lactones. Or I mean, there could be lactones here, but they're just sort of like hidden and to create a different effect. But I don't notice any obvious lactonic elements here. That's nice. I like it. Yeah, it's pretty. It's very pretty. But I don't do first impressions as much anymore because I feel like I've done some fragrances a disservice by doing a first impression live. And oh God, it's dreadful.
No,
and then like later on, I'll like fall in love with it. I'm like, oh, I just have that recorded for posterity, and now I changed my mind. So I very seldom do them.
I mean, that's what first impression are. They are not meant to be definitive and.
Philippe, you should just watch the Time to Spill the Tea stream from last year. And I covered tea all across the board on that one. But tea does work for green. But I had to limit it, like I pulled like 50 fragrances out. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some green elements, especially when you have a green tea note.
Very herbal. Or mint, and another, you or someone like you at Halibut Orange.
Minty,
very minty.
Will says he wanted to love Fathom V, but the cumin note comes across as taco seasoning on his skin. Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh, God. Oh, clear. That's a rarity for me to do a first impression live. I used to do those all the time. The first YouTube season of Effluvium, that was like part of what I did. I would do like 3 first impressions at the beginning of the stream. But over time, like I was like, oh man, like I don't know how I feel about this. Like because like I would dislike it at first, and then it would grow on me. But then I have forever recorded, and I'm like, like I can't.
This is green, vegetal, incredible.
What's
Ulrich Lang Apsu. And I'm sorry, it's also written by me. Ulrich Lang
Apsu. Is that like a violet leaf? It's very like, oh yeah. Sorry, Philippe. I kind of figured you may have watched it way back when, but yeah, I had to, I drew the line at
green, fresh, but in a very unusual way. Oh, we haven't mentioned what to me is green, but green like nothing else. L'eau de Maison.
Ooh. Oh, L'eau de Maison. You introduced me to that, Alex. Yeah. Gorgeous stuff. And you know my favorite part of that is that hawthorn accord in it.
Yeah, the autumn. I'm a sucker because I have my hawthorn tree in my garden. Unfortunately, just a couple of weeks ago, the flowers recessed. But when they were in full bloom, you have that smell. When I come home at 6 a.m. in the morning that I finished to work, especially in the morning, I don't know why the smell is more intense. And I park my car, I go to the path to my door, and I pass in front of first the lilac and then the hawthorn, and those two go so well together. That's incredible.
So there's a place in Boston in the neighborhood of Jamaica Plain. It's called Arnold Arboretum. It was actually designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, who also designed Central Park and a number of other famous parks. And they have the fragrant hawthorn trees and the not so nice smelling ones too. But they do have the nicer smelling hawthorn varieties near the lilacs, of which they have many different varieties, and they're both in bloom at the same time, and they interact with each other when you're in between where the lilac and the hawthorn are, and it smells like a perfume in the air. It is just extraordinary.
Oh yeah. And we have
Tobacco Smeraldo.
I have it. It's greener the green, and another different take on green. This is very metallic. So they say in the pyramid aquatic notes, but the ozonic notes in that smell are really metallic, like an aldehyde. But yes, it's very, very green.
This is interesting. The verdant. Speaking of ozonic, this is turning very ozonic on my skin, and I already pick up like Javanol, like a big chunky synthetic sandalwood. And when I say synthetic sandalwood, it doesn't mean I'm saying that in a pejorative sense. It's not negative. It just is like a big synthetic sandalwood.
Well, Javanol is synthetic sandalwood, and
it is. It's like, well, yeah,
quite high graded.
Yeah, it's definitely like, wow, this is going to be something I'll have to scrub off my skin if I don't want to smell it anymore. I like it though. I have to like get used to it though. Wow, the ozonics and then the green. So it's got like the stemone and this. So another big material in perfume that makes things smell grassy green is like cis-3 hexanol, stemone. Then we have that ozonic stuff going on, and then this like big fatty sandalwood underneath. Very unusual. I'm gonna have a good time sampling these bougies.
This is a very interesting brand. It's called Olfactive Pharmacy.
Hmm.
If you
Sounds
Google
nice.
it, you would love the bottle. And they make 4 fragrances so far, solid notes basically. One is
Can you give me the name again?
yeah, Olfactive Pharmacy.
Pharmacy. Okay.
You will see the bottles. You will love.
Oh,
the
look
bottle.
at that. Yeah, I can already tell.
Okay.
Love them.
Okay, this
One's
is
Tilia.
Betula. This is Betula, which is birch.
Yep.
But it's not just birch tar. This is the whole package. The leafy greenness of the leaves. You smell the bark, the woodiness, and of course also the smokiness of the tar. Then they made thyme, tilia, which is linden blossom, and it's one of the most beautiful linden blossom ever.
Ah.
And one that you will love is this. Well, trust me on that. Salvia.
Salvia. So sage.
Sage and clary sage.
Ah, so both the sage and the clary sage.
And this to me smells like a wonderful, beautiful tobacco leaf.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Because when you smell like the solvent extracted absolute clary sage, to me smells more like fresh tobacco leaves than tobacco absolute does. Tobacco absolute takes all of these like danker elements of the tobacco, but clary sage absolute from the clary sage plant seems to embody the same characteristics as the fresh leaves. So it comes as no surprise that you get that impression. Yeah, this seems like a house that I would definitely be interested in sampling. So far, they all look quite interesting, and the bottles are really attractive as well.
Yeah. And
like apothecary style bottles.
Yeah. I think you would love, of course, the bottle design, but that it's relatively not important.
True.
I mean, the eye wants its share, of course, but they are nice looking. But the fact that they concentrate on a single element and they do that so well, it's they are beautiful fragrances. They are not the cheapest on the market, but not even the most expensive, because they go for 150, 160, but it's 100 ml.
Oh, wow. That is actually not bad for a niche house and that volume. Looks like the perfumer David Chietze.
Yeah, they are German, and actually using I think just one element, the performance is not monstrous. It's not a beast mode with fragrances so good. Who the fuck cares? I mean,
who the fuck cares? Douglas W. Here are a few I just found in my collection. He says ADP Fico di Amalfi, Ralph Lauren Safari. I love Safari. Aramis Tuscany Piromo, and the ads as well. Yes, Philippe Green Lover by Lolita Dempica is a nice minty freshie, and he's just correcting himself there. And hi, Tripler. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm not sure if you were with us for the last Effluvium. Yeah. Thanks for dropping by. We're already at the tail end of it here. We're running at almost 2.5 hours. I don't like to run too long. So we're going to be taking this backstage pretty soon. Share. We can
just another brand that is very, very interesting. It's from Hong Kong. It's Tobba. They make 4 or 5 or 6 fragrances. Not that much. They are not. This is Ombre Vert. This is the green one. It's a very soft vetiver. It's modern. Maybe it's this one among all of the fragrance they made is the one that is more on the conservative side. I mean, it's, well, not mass appealing, but it's not daring. They have this other is force, is much more intense and a bit more not unwearable but challenging. But Ombre Vert is very calming.
Is my music destroying your audio? I hope it's not. Can we hear you okay?
Yes, I think it's your music. I can hear it, but it's not.
No, you're fine. At first, it seemed as though it was interfering with your audio, but the music just means it's time for us to go backstage. And look, I don't have proper lighting here. I was relying on daylight, so it's looking quite dim now. It's crépuscule.
No, we are in the middle of the night, so I have to rely on.
Oh, Tripler, I was just mentioning alliage earlier.
Yeah.
I had the alliage we were talking about. But this is, as I said, the penultimate episode of Effluvium for this season. I'm going to be back. The next Effluvium is just next week, and that's going to be with Scout Dixon West, a good friend of mine, and just a real treat as far as to listen to hear her talk about perfume. She's wonderful. We're going to have her as the guest next week. That's going to be on, today is the 4th, the 13th, Thursday the 13th. She's going to be joining us. It's going to be the last one of the season. Then we're going to have just 2 summer sessions for this summer, one in the middle of July. And I'm talking to Dahlia about that. We're finally going to have Dahlia. And we're working out a day in July to have her, the Perfume Dahlia, for those of you who are aware of her. She's done a lot of collaborations with Sebastian, the perfume guy, as well. And she's
you had them, if I'm not mistaken, back then when you used to make Effluvium on Instagram
Live. She was with me for one of those. Yeah, I call that sort of the lost season because it was before I had a YouTube channel. Yeah, she joined me for one of them. So we'll have a date to be announced in July for a summer session, and then we'll have one more in August, and then I'll be back for a new season in September. But everyone who has tuned in to the very end, thank you so much for joining us. Alex, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Always a great pleasure for me and a great honor to be here.
Thank you. And we'll talk more backstage. Some other things that are coming up. I'm going to do a new video. It should be released hopefully this week or next week, and that is going to be on heliotrope fragrances. I hadn't really found any other videos on YouTube that really were devoted.
I have one from this brand.
Yes, Etro heliotrope is one of the best. It smells just like the flowers. I even mentioned that in the video as well.
And it smells exactly like a rubber. No, not a rubber, a glue. A glue.
Or like paste. It reminds me of like the glue or paste you would use in kindergarten.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it was an Italian brand. You have this box, this metal tin box, and with a small brush that you used, and we smell exactly like that.
We use something very similar. Yeah, I get that similarity, that association as well, for sure. So yeah, that's going to be one of them. We're going to be mentioning that one, of course.
Probably because heliotropin was used to flavor those products, to make them more
pleasant
to children.
To mask the not so pleasant effluvia of what what these glues and paste actually smelled like. So yeah, some people will get that association. And I even have a little chat with my own heliotrope plant too. I talk about it the plant itself. So that video is going to be coming up soon. Thank you, Tripler. Peace out to you too. This theme is about to end, so we're going to wrap things up here. Everybody take care. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.